Hi, you're listening to Abbacadabra Radio. This podcast is for my conscious creator friends, my manifesting besties. This is part stream of consciousness, part talking with people who love to talk about conscious creation, manifestation, spiritual things, anything in between. And it is my hope that through this podcast, I expand my own awareness and understanding of myself, and you guys do too. I am happy to have you guys here along for the ride. Hello, my conscious creator friends. Welcome back to yet another episode of Abbacadabra Radio. I'm Abby, your host, and here we are with another video podcast, recording at a very different time than I normally do. It is 7 a.m. Hi. Of course, as always, before we get started, you guys know on the website I have the blueprint, which is a 30-day, 3-part meditation process designed to help you align with your desires. I have found that repeating the same scene, the same feeling state, the same state of being connected to the desires that you want day in and day out helps you align with it, helps it normalize in your subconscious, helps it normalize for you. And the more normal we make something, the more likely we are to align with something or something like it or exactly that. So I have found that the blueprint method works really, really well for me. It works really well for other people. So if you're interested, go check that out. I have 3 hypnosises on the site as well. I have the love hypnosis, the money hypnosis. Both are designed to help deepen, strengthen, and amplify your relationship with love and money. And then I also have the identity shifting hypnosis, which allows you to show up exactly how you've been trying to show up, how you've been waiting to show up. It gives you the permission to get there and stay there and anchor into that new state of being. I also have a timeline shifting audio, which is a guided timeline shift from the timeline you're in to the timeline you're headed to. It helps you aim. It helps you figure out where you are and where you would like to be and helps guide you there, helps direct you there. And you guys know I've got the Opening Up to Money Masterclass, which is a 3-day masterclass designed to get to the root of money for you, what you believe about money, what you think about money, your relationship with money, and improve it. And we also do EFT tapping at the end of each day to help work through all of those things. I have a free mini manifestation crash course, so if you're just getting into the world of manifestation, or if you've just come here, that is a really great place to start, because then you'll know my thoughts on manifestation and everything about it. I also have a conscious creation workbook, which is another great place to start. It's a PDF that you can print out, totally self-guided in the work that you're going to do. So if you're into like self-guided work, that is a great one for you. Let's get into the episode. This is going to look a little bit different than how episodes have looked before, because a lot of the times I'm talking about like spiritual things, manifestation, consciousness, conscious creation, and that's still going to happen in this episode, but I want to get into the shifts that I'm seeing happen in my reality, because it seems like we have a very big shift happening collectively, and I kind of wanted to get my thoughts out on it, because the people who I have talked to are having similar experiences or are going to like moving into experiences like that. Like, it just seems collectively we're all headed to a certain place. So why not talk about what I'm experiencing, how I'm navigating it, in hopes that like the whole reason I have this podcast, the whole reason that I like to do like when I've done interviews and why I like to listen to other people's podcasts is because even if you don't agree with someone 100%, it gives you the opportunity to ask yourself, what do I believe? It gives you the opportunity to expand your mind. It gives you the opportunity to expand your consciousness. Again, whether you agree 100% or agree 0%, it doesn't matter. That gives you the opportunity to ask yourself, what do I think about this thing? What do I believe about this thing? And expand in any direction, because expansion is not only forward, it's backwards, it's sideways, it's everything. So I want to start by talking about spiritual discernment, and this goes for literally everybody. It's important to know that at any time, creators, we're all putting out info, we're all putting out a lot of stuff, which is really, really great, but if there's something I say, if there's something someone says, if there's some sort of teaching method that doesn't align with you, that doesn't feel right, that doesn't sit right, that you just don't, it doesn't have to be for you. It doesn't have to. And if you're at any point on your journey and you are working with someone, this goes for like beyond spiritual things. This goes for therapy. This goes for like just out in the like world. If you feel like someone else has like the power to tell you like you can't manifest this thing, or this relationship will not support you, like things like that, but when they're coming from like a seemingly higher up like place, that's not for you. Basically, I want to make sure you guys know that like if something doesn't feel right for you, you can just let it go. You can just cast it aside. If it's something that that the belief doesn't jive with you, don't do it. If it's a manifestation method that you have no joy doing, don't do it. If it's something that just like makes you uncomfy or makes you feel powerless, do not do it. Or to the best of your ability, do not do it. Don't go there. You don't have to do it. This is me giving everybody permission to like, if there's things I've said that you don't necessarily jive with, drop it. It's okay, because we're all different. And that's something that I've been saying for a while. Your experience is going to be different than other people's experiences. And I personally, this is where I'm getting into like the shifts that I'm seeing. I personally am going through I'm 29 years old, so myself anyway, there's like a stigma with feeling like you have to have certain things by that age, and it's just totally made up. And I think societally, we all just kind of get in that mindset of like, oh, I'm gonna be 30, I have to have all these things, or else I don't mean enough, or else I'm not keeping up with people. We don't live in that world. I think we did for a time, and I think it worked for a lot of people for a time, like to do the house, the job, the kids, the marriage, the whatever, all by 30. It made sense, just where we were as a collective, and it worked for a lot of people, and it worked really well. So now, us getting to that phase of life, maybe we don't want kids. Maybe we're not married. Maybe we can't, like, we live in a weird world economically. Money is shifting like freaking crazy all the time. Maybe you don't have a house. Maybe you rent a home. Like, that's okay. Again, this is a very big shift I'm seeing, is like the way that we were living life before is not necessarily the way that we're living life now, because we are going through a massive shift. We are going through massive changes. Money looks really, really different. It's evolved quite a bit over the last, since like creation started. Powers that be are changing. Things feel very, very unsteady and very, very ungrounded. It's not a great feeling. It's uncomfortable. I get it. I have a theory that the media tells us things to get used to things. And this isn't like just my theory. This is a theory that a lot of people have, that we are fed things as stuff starts to become more normalized and more like part of our reality. Like, think about how I don't know when alien movies like started. I was born in 94, so I don't know if they were like a thing before. Anyway, I remember alien movies really like popping off in like the early mid 2000s, and here we are in 2024, and the idea of aliens is not even like, you could say like, if someone said aliens landed in Australia yesterday, I'd be like, yeah, that checks out. Like, I wouldn't be panicking like how collectively 20 years ago we'd be panicking, we'd be freaking out, we'd be like, oh my god, like, oh, aliens, oh my god. Like, it's become normalized. The media has normalized that idea. Something that I'm seeing the media normalize now, like movies, is the idea of parallel realities, is the idea of like creation. Think about the movie Everything Everywhere All at Once. That movie is timeline shifting, timeline jumping, focus oriented. Like, it is a wonderful movie. Highly recommend that you guys watch it. I feel like I need to go watch it again after I record this. But then last night, my boyfriend and I watched a movie called Spaceman, and that was all about, like, I don't want to give away the movie. You need to watch the movie. It's about life. It's about relating. It's such a wonderful movie. There was an alien in it. Like, it was about consciousness. It was so beautiful. It was like such a well done movie. Like, Adam Sandler, holy moly. This is not a movie review podcast, but oh my god, such a good movie. Please go watch it. It seems to me like, and I was talking to people about this a few weeks ago when I was on a trip, and I said, I just feel like they're normalizing the idea of like the stuff that I talk about, the stuff that I see other people talking about in this realm of focus creating reality, of parallel realities, of timeline shifting, we are headed towards that. Like, I really feel in my bones that like we are headed towards that becoming a more normalized thing that people talk about. We talk about the Mandela effects all the time. You see people who post like videos on it. We have different memories because some of us might be from a different timeline. How normal is it for you to say to someone when you're in that situation of a Mandela effect of like, I wasn't in that timeline? Guys, it's becoming more normalized. And that's not a bad thing. I don't think that that's a bad thing. I also feel like in relationships, in relating, this could just be with my age demographic of like millennials. But I really think that this is happening like on a broader scale because like I've had these moments with my dad and people who are not in my same generation. It's becoming more normalized to just explain your thought process and like just be honest with things, which is another really, really good thing. And I think the more we do it, the more normal it's going to become, the more easy it's going to become. Think about when you have plans with a friend and like, nowadays, I feel like, at least for me and the people who I know and the people in my circle, it's really normal, not that it happens frequently, but to say like, you know, I'm having a lot of anxiety or I'm just not feeling up to it or like I'm feeling down today or like whatever you're feeling. People are being more transparent with what they're feeling. People are being more transparent with what they are perceiving and what is conspiring. And again, I don't know if it's just me because I'm becoming very, very like, I have to explain my thoughts and feelings and perception on it because other people's is probably different. And if we both understand where the other one's coming from, it can at least help not go through, like, we're not giving up fake excuses. When you give a fake excuse for something that you're actually feeling, you do yourself a massive disservice. That's what I'm finding. Because let's say I get angry about something super, like, I'll give an example. The other morning, I got really, really angry about spilling coffee in the morning, but when I got down to it, like I was explaining like to someone like what had happened and I like had a meltdown. But when I was explaining it and going through it, I got to the root of like, I wasn't angry about the coffee spilling. I wasn't angry that I felt like it like threw off my morning. I had been angry before the coffee spilt. The coffee spilling gave me the permission to lose it and to get really, really frustrated because that made sense to me. If I had just felt my feelings of being frustrated about what I was frustrated and thinking about before the coffee even spilled, I probably would, like, when the coffee spilled, or if the coffee didn't spill, either wouldn't have spilled, or when it spilled, because when it happened, I said, okay, I can either let this ruin my day, or just clean it up and laugh at myself, and I actively chose violence. I actively chose, I don't want this, I'm gonna let it ruin my morning. That's literally what I thought, because I was so worked up before that, like, in my head, but it happened so quickly that I didn't really realize that that was what I was angry about until I was, like, talking through it like an hour later. And then it made sense to me, like, oh, I was never actually mad about coffee. Anyway, all of that to say that I feel like we are moving through a time where talking through your perception of something is going to be normal, is going to be easy. It's not going to make contrast not happen. It's not going to make us magically, like, never have a negative thing happen again. But when a negative thing does happen, now we have the safety in ourselves to say, okay, I got mad about coffee. Was I mad about coffee? What was I thinking about when the coffee spilled? What did the coffee spilling trigger in my mind that made me even more, like, you know? I'm seeing that becoming more normal. Again, don't know if it's just my age. Don't know if it's, I don't know. Some of these things could be related to, like, just the era of life that I'm in, but I don't think so. I think this is, like, a collective shift that we are all seeing happen. So, normalizing talking about how things are playing out and your perception of it is going to be really, really big, and inviting other people to speak about their perception as well. It's going to allow us to that miscommunication, because a lot of the times if we're talking about something that we're not actually mad about, like coffee spilling, the other person who's talking to us can only respond to like the things that you're saying. They're not going to be able to respond to the things that you're feeling and thinking. So like, let's not try to make everybody like think that they're a psychic and just say what we're feeling and but again, we don't get to the bottom of it. I am seeing us collectively come into a place where we're able to articulate what we are experiencing and perceiving in order to shift it. What a long way to get to that. There's a lot of things that we are shifting through collectively that like you can take the blame off of yourself a little bit. It's not easy work to be in the conscious creation field because you are conscious of what you are doing in your thoughts. So it makes navigating like little moments of contrast a lot easier because you're like, okay, I can see my role in this. Like it's easier for me. But then when you are moving through like bigger shifts, it's really hard because you feel very, very isolated and very, very, you just like, I played the blame game on myself when that's not necessarily true. Like I am one consciousness in the collective, but there is a collective also moving things. There are other people who are co-creating with me, other scenarios, other things and aspects of my life, as well as you guys. Like there are other things involved. So basically what I want you guys to work on not doing, what I'm going to work on not doing is playing the blame game, not blaming circumstances, not blaming yourself, not blaming other people. Let it be neutral. Neutralizing the things that are happening when you don't love them is one of the best ways to move through it, is one of the easiest ways to move through it, if you can get to that point. I will find myself, I tell you guys all the time, I'm so sorry to always talk about traffic, but I'm not actually that sorry because we all usually experience it. Literally yesterday, I had someone going 25 miles in front of me, which I wanted to go like 32 miles an hour. Yeah, I needed that extra 7 miles an hour. No, I didn't. But I was like irritated for a second and I'm driving and I was like my face probably looked like that. Maybe not quite that aggressive, but like kind of, because I remember thinking, okay, this is allowed. I can let this be allowed. This person can go as fast or as slow as they want. Like it doesn't matter to me. I felt everything in me drop and relax. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah. And that's my cue of like, I neutralized it. That's my cue of like, okay, I made the shift. Okay, it's okay. It's fine. Because somebody going 25 miles an hour, that's actually a good thing. That's actually like a safe thing. So why am I so angry about it? Because am I rushing to get on my couch that much faster? Like, I'm fine. Traffic is where I have the most fun neutralizing things because it means the least amount to me. It's probably easy for me because it like has no bearing on my life in all actuality. I've never been late because of traffic. Like I don't live in that world. I don't live in that life. My commute to work is 7 minutes. I live in a small town. Like traffic's not an issue. So that's why I play around with neutralizing things, and traffic is what has been the most successful to me. But again, we're not, just to backtrack a little bit, we're not blaming everything. Stop blaming things. Stop feeling like, okay, I can't just say like, stop feeling this way. No, I'm not trying to do that. But just understand that we're like in a weird time. It's weird with a lot of things changing and a lot of things up in the air. And that like shift is happening. You hear about the shift, the split in consciousness and how some people are going to like ascend and some people are like not. I don't see it happening quite like that, but I do see a split in consciousnesses, not in a way that like if you're spiritual you're gonna be here and if you're not spiritual you're gonna be here. Like it's not anything like that. It doesn't have anything to do with that necessarily. I mean, it might a little bit, but like not. Anyway, I am seeing a split in, and not just in my life but in other people in my like reality's lives too, relationships falling away, relationships coming together. Basically, relationships falling away that don't serve us anymore, like kind of easily, kind of quickly. Like, I know that when someone vibrates out of your reality, it's going to feel pretty natural when you get to the place of like acceptance. If you're not trying to like hold on to an old relationship, you want to make sure we're not holding on to the idea of an old relationship or the idea of a new relationship or the idea of someone that's not actually them. And I think that that's becoming more and more apparent because you're seeing relationships shift. You're seeing relationships fall apart. You're seeing relationships come together. You're seeing new unions, old unions, reunions, whatever it is. I've had people fall out of my life. I've had relationships shift over the past few months. There are a few things that I've done and that I'm shifting through in my reality that attribute to that. But at the same time, like, there are people that we're all going to see, and this isn't anything to be afraid of, who just naturally might distance themselves, or there might naturally be some sort of distance in between two people that wasn't there before, or your relationship might feel like it's a different level, whether it's like higher or lower, and that's okay. There are people who I have gone a couple months not talking to, and then when I talk to them again, it's a totally different version of that person. And I'm not saying that in a bad way. Like, I'm just saying, like, they show up as a completely different version of themselves, and I'm also showing up as a completely different version of myself. So it's really interesting, those relationships that I have that are kind of spread out between different several months or even several weeks. Like, the people are changing like so rapidly. We are all changing so rapidly. And it's kind of exciting and it's exhilarating, but like, don't be surprised if you're seeing people who, after an extended period of time of not seeing them, are like very, very different. Give people the opportunity to be different. Don't hold on again to the old idea of people, of how they used to show up, because you don't get to dictate how people are showing up. You don't. You're aligning with different consciousnesses and aligning with different like focuses and belief systems, and don't hold on to the old them because they're not there. Unless they show up that way, then they are there. But by holding someone to a standard of this is how you did show up, again, this is for relationships that are like extended periods of time of not seeing. Maybe not someone you see every single day because you're not going to pick up on that shift quite as quickly. Someone shifting overnight isn't going to be as common as people who are shifting over like a period of a few weeks or a period of a few months. When you give these people the opportunity to show up in a different way, your relationship has an opportunity to like deepen, expand, be really, really awesome, or be really, really different. And maybe this person shifts and like there's not an alignment, and that's okay. That relationship will fall away. You won't feel that kind of like, you might feel melancholy for a moment, but you're not going to feel that like, oh, that person's missing from me. It's going to feel very natural. If you have relationships that are shifting right now, it seems to me like a lot of them feel natural unless you are pulling and hoping and striving for an old relationship, an old version of someone, an old version of you. If you are pulling and striving for an old version of them that you're used to, or an old version of yourself that you're used to, or an old relationship that might be rooted in like comfort or fear or like whatever, you have to let those relationships be different. Consciousnesses, alignments, common interests might be shifting, might be changing. We're also aging. That like, again, there's also like an aspect of like, we're also growing up. That's a part of growing up too, is like growing up and evolving and like maybe being at a different speed than someone. One of the things that I've like realized about myself lately is I've been very in my hermit mode. I have a hermit, my human design is 5'2", so it's the heretic and the hermit. So part of me is like, I want to be out here and talk to you guys all day and have a podcast and do this thing. The other part of me is like, I need to be around no one, and I need to like just be by myself, which is really weird because those are two very, very different things. But I like it. So lately I've been very, very in hermit mode. When I'm talking on the podcast, when I'm talking to people, like, if the camera's on, I'm good. I'm like, we're great. Like, that's where the heretic comes out. But I've just been trying to slow down a lot. A lot of me lately, the downloads I've been getting is slow down. Stop rushing. You can't do it all at once. You cannot do it all at once. And that's a huge lesson that I've had to learn, is I can't do it all in the moment I want to get it done. I can't move through things as fast as I necessarily want to. I might have to be in contrast a little bit longer than I expect, but that doesn't mean I'm a bad person. That doesn't mean I can't do it. That doesn't mean anything about me at all. It's just where I'm at. And there is an aspect of being in conscious creation that you think you can like jump cut and rush things, and you can't. There's a gradual progression to everything. And I mean, the last few weeks for me were like not great. I was like mentally like just kind of all over the place and like felt not like my best self in a lot of days, and that's gonna happen. And I have to give myself the grace and the space and the gentleness to be there, because now that I'm outside of those moments, now that I'm outside of that contrast, I can ask myself, well, what did I learn about myself? I might have learned ways that I might need to show up for myself in a different way. I had my inner child come up to me, like this doesn't happen a lot, but sometimes I have these moments where my inner child like popped into my head. I was at work and I literally got like the idea, like I have to sit down through this. And my inner child was just crying and just asking like, why am I not enough? And I said, okay, this is different. I have to sit with this. I have to be in this for a minute. So luckily very grateful, I do have a place where I can do that. I have the freedom to do that. So I'm grateful for that. So I did sit with myself. I sat with my inner child. I talked to my inner child. I talked to my inner child in ways that and this is no fault to any people in my life growing up, because I love my family. I love my parents. I gave myself the compassion and the love and the clarity that I know I needed at that time. And it's important to know that those, like, I didn't realize, and I was talking to my friend Cleburne Walker about this a few days ago, those aspects of yourself, that childlike aspect, like, that still shows up. The adolescent me still shows up. Like, mid-20s me, there are still parts of me that exist in who I am now at 29. Those parts of me will still show up, especially if they need something. So there were moments over the last few weeks where, I'll just be honest, I was acting very childish and like acting out when things didn't go my way in a very childlike way. And then I'm not surprised that like my inner child came up to me and was like, this is what I need. And I listened and I did it. And it's probably something I'm going to have to continue to do. But basically all these big things that feel like they're happening right now, and like the world feels like a really weird place. The economy's wild. Like, my advice, what I do is, as far as media goes, as far as the news goes, I take in as much as I need to for survival, for having like knowledge of the world. When it starts to feel constricted, when I start to get nervous and scared, I have to turn it off. I have to scroll through those videos. I have to not feed into it. Because I know for me, I'm a big worrier. I won't sleep if I continue to do that. So I know that about myself. So I'm as up to date as I think I need to be on things happening in the world. I don't talk about them a lot. I'm not going to. That's not what this is. That's not what this podcast is. There are a lot of things that are changing and shifting and growing, and you're also changing and shifting and growing. So I want you to just know that if you feel weird, if you feel out of place, if things feel chaotic, do some grounding breathing, do EFT tapping. I have a few EFT tapping things on here. I have some on my TikTok. Find ways that help you feel grounded, and you will be fine. We're all going to be fine. However it ends up happening, I truly believe we're all going to be fine. A big thing that I'm really learning is like circumstances you can't, you will never be able to control. So you have to give up trying, or you're going to be annoyed. You can do manifestation tools. You can do alignment tools, because when like you get to control, I say it all the time, you get to control the flavor. You get to control the energy. You get to control the feeling state. You do not get to control what it is that makes you feel that way. You don't. Because everything that shows up is neutral. Can I neutralize it? Can I be playfully curious about why I'm reacting this way? Can I slow down a little bit? The things that I talk about, the things that we see other creators talk about, the idea of manifestation, the idea of consciousness, because again, I'm going to remind you guys, my definition of manifestation is not I wrote it 55 times and now I have my car, or it's not even I visualize it every day and now I have it. It is your alignment. It is your attention to your response to your reality in order to shift it for more favorable outcomes. That's what manifestation is to me. It's understanding that you play a role in your reality, and it's not just all happening randomly. You're picking the state of being, you're picking the focus, you are picking the stories, you are picking the beliefs. And then you get to live a life that is experiencing that. When you pick a timeline, when you pick a state of being, when you pick a pod of existence, you're now in that vibrational field and you're experiencing and creating from within that field. So if you're in a field of lack, you're going to see a lot of things that represent lack and not having. When you're in a field of abundance and ease, you're going to see things work a lot faster, a lot quicker, a lot more seamlessly. But we are moving in and out of those all the time. You're not just, it's not like, I'm abundant, I said it today, so I'm abundant for the rest of my life. It is a lifelong thing. I thought getting into manifestation would make my life a lot more simpler. It didn't. It didn't make my life simpler. It made my life, I don't want to say it made it more complicated. It made me understand that it's not quite all by happenstance. I don't think everything showing up in my reality is random. I think a lot of it has to do with my own perception and my own beliefs and how I'm looking at things. Because you can have an instance of like a car accident, an example of a car accident. I've manifested a car accident. That was the first thing I knew I consciously manifested at one point. I manifested a car accident. I'm not going to get into that. I have an episode on it. Go listen to that one if you feel like it. It's an early one. You might need to scroll for a minute. Anyway, so in the example of like a car accident, let's say someone gets in a car accident and their car is totaled and it is the end of their world. And they're seeing it as the end of their world. And another person, or let's say the same consciousness, experiences this car accident and they see it as like, okay, my car is totaled. I'm going to get a new car. It's going to be paid for. Like, there are benefits that someone might get, believe it or not, from a car accident. And that's not even like my experience in my situation. I just wanted to use that as an example. Like, someone could see it as like super detrimental, because there are obviously like cons to being in something like that. But if you are in the consciousness that will believe that things are working out for you, that things benefit you, you are going to notice the benefit as well. And you're going to be able to live in that and bask in that and experience that more. So whatever timeline frequency you're on, whatever vibrational frequency you're on, you're hearing those, you're seeing those, you're experiencing all of those things that align in that frequency. And then you're creating within that. And then you're going to shift to another one and another one and another one and another one, and in and out and up and down and left and right and forward and backward and the whole thing. And that's how it works. That's how I think it works. And I think we're going to see more and more evidence of stuff like that being talked about. I'm excited to see where the future goes. I'm excited to see what shows up. But like currently right now, I know that things feel rocky and things feel weird and things feel out of touch. That's when you go within. That's why I always encourage people to go within in whatever way. For me, it's meditation. For some people, it could be walking. It can be writing. It can be singing. It can be dancing. It can be cooking. I don't care what it is. It could be working out. Go within. Having that support system inside of yourself is going to make everything easier, because then you're going to know, okay, I have at least one person that I know is going to show up for me every single day, and it should be you. You should be the person showing up for you every single day. You shouldn't be waiting for someone else to show up for you first. When you show up for you, the world will show up for you. When you show up for you, you've got that love, that compassion, that service that you've been looking for. And I do also want to note, like on the note of service, when you, and I don't want to go too deep into it, when you serve yourself, the collective, like when you do good for yourself, when you do good for others, like it's a collective thing. We are all truly connected. So when you serve yourself, you serve the collective. When you serve others, you serve the collective. When you serve others, you serve yourself. I think we're moving into a time of just more and more being able to like support others in that way and understand it in that way. We were very isolated, just singular, I think, focused for a while. And it seems like we're moving into a more collectively oriented reality. It'll be interesting to see like how that goes. And I think that that's part of like this shift and this split of like people falling away from your reality, new people coming into your reality, like maybe meeting people that you didn't think you had any interests, like common interests, and then you do. And you're like, wow, okay, cool. All of this to say, this was a long one. I'm proud of that. I rambled. I talked about shifts. I talked about where I was at. I'm gonna leave it with, if you're questioning your self-worth, if you're questioning if you're doing it all wrong, if you're questioning all of those things, you're fine. It's a normal thing to think. It's a normal thing to worry about. You're doing enough. If you're doing the best you can, you're doing enough. Okay? Just focus on doing the best you can, maybe being playfully curious about what's showing up and how you're responding to it, and work on playfully neutralizing things that you might not love, like traffic. Those are not like the key takeaways from this video, but that's what I'm going to leave this with. I love you guys so much. If you guys have questions for next week's episode, drop them. And you know, the email's in the show notes, the website's in the show notes. Here they are. I love you guys. And until next time, this is Abby signing off.